Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Kick MMA episode 363. I am Brendan. UFC Fight Night, Ankalaev versus Walker. This is going to be the prelims, right? This is the first fight night of the year, first card of the year for the UFC. The prelims are here. If you're looking for the main card, main event, that's the last video. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, subscribe to the channel. That way you know the next video is coming out. It helps me out. It takes 2 seconds to go down and click it, so I'd appreciate it. All right, let's talk about some Matthew Semelsberger versus Preston PArsons. Just pulling up all my statistics. Okay. All right. Hard body kicks from Parsons. Hard jab for Semelsberger as Parsons steps in. Parsons with the nice leg sweeps and slamming him to the ground, but they get right back up. Lots of body work from Parsons in the clinch, and Semelsberger landing some knees to the body in return. Semelsberger is not known for his cardio, so Parsons' work in the body was smart. Parsons landing more of was just way more active through the round. If you look at the striking numbers here, 20-11 in favor of Parsons. He was interested in the grappling, when the pressure, and he just threw more out there. So obviously his round. Second round, Semelsberger starts a round on the front foot, works his way through the damage and gets a takedown of his own. Parsons works his way back up with about 3 minutes and 50 seconds left. Back to the low kick, staying active with the hands. Parsons gets a double leg lift and slam, and then they get right back up again with another lift and slam. Parsons rolls for a beautiful armbar, but Semelsberger steps over the head and manages to work its way out of it really well. Parsons with the crazy pace and a lot of offense this round. If you look at the striking numbers here, 17-9. If you look at the control time here, Parsons 2 minutes and 24 seconds to 1 minute and 30. So they both had some control time, especially on the ground. But again, Parsons just doing more in all categories. 20-18 going into the last round. Semelsberger in his face, landed some left hands. Parsons throwing right back at him. Parsons fails on a takedown, gets caught in a guillotine, falls to his back, and uses the half guard sweep to get back up on top. They end up standing back up, but that was beautiful. He could have been stuck there the whole round, and who knows if the judges scored either the first rounds for Semelsberger. Parsons could be on his way to a loss there. Semelsberger jumps on the guillotine, but all that does is put him on his back. Parsons, just with nonstop pressure, gets on top and finishes this fight in the control. 10-8 for striking numbers. Not a whole lot, but I gave it to Parsons. I felt like Parsons did more in this last round. I didn't feel like there was much that Semelsberger did. It was a tough fight for both guys. Looking at all three judges here, Mike Bell, Camijo, and Ron McCarthy. God, these freaking judges. Woo! Maybe they're all better this year. All three of them gave it 30-27 in favor of Parsons. I agree. This was a banger. Lots of fun fights on the prelims. Go back and watch them if you didn't. Marcus McGhee versus Gaston Bolanos. Sorry, not Bolanos. McGhee landing the right left 2 in a row, shoots in on a double. Bolanos landing some good low kicks. Bolanos landing the right hand. McGhee lands a 1-2-3. McGhee starts landing hard and staggers Bolanos, so Bolanos starts smiling at him. Interesting. Usually what'll happen is someone will get cracked one time and they'll smile like, "Oh, hey, you got me," or they'll be like, no, you didn't, or whatever. But usually after you get cracked and wobbled, you don't start smiling as like to entice them to come in for more. In this way, you'll see it when people want to be tough. They'll be like, yeah, come in, let's go for it. But that's not what Bolanos was doing. He was just getting picked apart, and I don't know what he was thinking. McGhee lands a hard right hand and gets on top, lands some hard ground and pound. Some hard right hands from the standing position to Bolanos when he was on his back. McGhee doing a great job landing tight hooks as the round comes to an end. Looking at the striking numbers here, 35-14, not even close. Bolanos apparently was a kickboxer. I've said it before. I don't think kickboxers translate directly over MMA the way you'd think they would. I explained it before in an old video. I'll explain why afterwards. Hooks are working again for McGhee as Bolanos trying to land some straight rights. Bolanos landing, but he's often swinging, steps by, and then gets punished. So he'll miss this big shot, and then he'll get punished for missing. Right hook puts Bolanos down, and Bolanos stands and raises his hands again like he's doing something. And McGhee follows him with a spinning kick, lands it to the head, and then the left hand puts him not down, but out of his wits enough for the ref to call it. So 30-14 for the striking numbers here before it got called to an end. So real quick, why I think, it's not that I think kickboxing isn't good for MMA. Absolutely it is. I'm just saying, if you specialize in kickboxing, there's certain skill sets. This works for wrestling as well, by the way. So there's certain skill sets in kickboxing that do not translate to MMA. One of them being Shelling up, taking some damage, and taking a round off. Doesn't work when you only have 3 rounds. Okay, you can get away with it once in a while, but as your career goes on, you're going to get punished for it. Shelling up itself works pretty well in both boxing and kickboxing, but can cause severe problems. We've seen it with Alistair Overeem, a very good kickboxer in his own right, but that shell doesn't always work, especially in MMA with the small gloves. Using the gloves to block is not a good skill, right? Using the gloves to block a kick, to block punches, it doesn't always work in MMA. And then also taking some damage the way that they do in kickboxing, knowing that they can take a knee, right? So there's this threshold that you have in a fight where you can feel, oh, the pressure's coming on me. I'm taking some damage here. Oh, that was a good one. I'm going to take a knee. Yes, I'll get 10-8'd this round, but I'll be in there next round. I can come back and fight some more. I got hit to the body hard. There's none of that in MMA. You don't have that ability. So there's certain skill sets in kickboxing that don't directly translate. In fact, I would say they hurt you in MMA in general. So, and also being a clean technical kickboxer isn't always the best thing. Like a lot of these kickboxers, like they're very, I don't know what it is about their head movement, but they just don't have the best head movement when they come over, and it costs them dearly. They get knocked out hard. So I just don't understand it sometimes. Anywho, that's my little spiel about that. It works for wrestling too. There are certain wrestling skills that do not apply well to MMA or jiu-jitsu, right? You know, go into all fours, the turtle position in jiu-jitsu. Like go into all fours to get to stand back up, not great because you give up your back. Yes, there are counters to that, and yes, you can use it effectively. I'm not saying it doesn't translate, or I'm not saying that it doesn't work all the time, but translating it directly over from folk-style wrestling is not going to work for you. The pinning, right? The whole sequence of pinning, getting the guy down on their back and getting their back to the mat. Yes, it can help you, and yes, it has its validity, but just getting to that position and being the best guy at pinning other people doesn't translate directly over to MMA because it doesn't get you anything. All it gives you is a change in position, because the second their shoulders hit the mat in wrestling, you got the pin, you're done. Well, yes, if you had control, that's great, but there's certain types of pins that don't allow you to transition to anything else smoothly, to like for submission or for striking. So when you give up that position to go to your next one, you might not have control, right? There are, obviously, I still think, by far and away, I think the best skill to have for MMA is wrestling. I think it allows you to win more often in all circumstances. I think it allows you to control where the fight takes place, and I think it gives you a skill set that a lot of other people just can never catch up to. Okay? I think there's certain things you can get away with in MMA, and one of them is not lacking in grappling. I think there's certain guys who've gotten away with it a little bit as their career went on, but I feel like those guys usually don't last forever, and they usually lose to someone who can grapple. It happens more often than not. Just go look at any of the statistics for the guys who have been wrestlers who become champions. It's way more than any other skill set. All right, that spiel out of the way. Farid Basharat versus Tyler Lapilus. I think that's how you pronounce that. Taylor Lapilus, not Tyler. Taylor Lapilus. Basharat throwing out some hard kicks, including a high axe kick. Basharat using the single leg to get to the clinch and repeatedly attempting the body lock takedown. Lapilus landing the elbow in tight, nice left hand after shucking Basharat off. Basharat caught a kick and got to the single leg again. Lapilus fighting it off. The pace and the amount of offense from Basharat wins him this round. I don't think that Basharat far and away won this round. I think it was closer than it seemed. It was 14-14 on the striking numbers. If you look at the control time, he didn't have a ton of it. It was 1 minute and 37 seconds. It was really just that forward pressure that won him this round. I have no qualms about giving him that round, but it wasn't just cut and dry. Basharat in on the double leg again, but nothing doing. Basharat finally gets a takedown, but Lapilus works his way right back up. The low kicks from Basharat are the best thing that he's doing in Lapilus, landing a nice jab. Basharat getting the takedown again, sits on top for the rest of the round. Easily his round 20-18. But you can look here. Like, again, he got outstruck 19-15. So was he doing more damage? I think not. So if you go by the letter of the law and you just go by damage, and who was closer to finishing this fight, Lapilus should have gotten the second round. Okay, I didn't score it that way. I think if you look at the striking, I think it could have been close enough that Basharat was close enough onto the damage that the control numbers definitely in his favor. 2 minutes and 28 seconds allowed him to win this round. But if you just go by what it says, when damage is the number one scoring criteria, who did more damage in that round? Probably Lapilus. But it was close enough to where I still gave it to Basharat. He's going to have some difficulties moving forward. He's got some kinks to iron out. Basharat goes to the takedown again. They get right back up in this last round. Basharat gets a takedown, finally goes to the sub. Doesn't get it, but I thought he won this round. Finally, a round that was like, there's no way that you can talk about Lapilus winning this last round. 2 minutes and 53 seconds on his back, and then there's no way you can score that for him. Looking at the scorecards, all three judges thought 30-27. You're gonna have to have a judge with a specific set of tastes that's going to give those rounds to Lapilus, and you're going to get a ton of kickback from the MMA community about giving Lapilus any of those rounds. Even though if you go by the letter of the law, you could obviously give him one of those rounds. I didn't. So don't come at me, bro. All right, Gian Silva versus Westin Wilson. This one was just weird. Kind of weird to watch. Westin Wilson wades in, and Silva cracks him with a huge left hook, knocking him off balance. Wilson can land with the range, but he just leaves his head straight up. Silva lands another huge left hook, and then getting right in there, putting Wilson down, lets him up. Wilson is just getting tagged. It was really hard to watch. I'm glad the ref stepped in when he did. I didn't want to see that fight anymore. Very, very good performance by Silva. Nikolas Motta versus Tom Nolan. Nolan using the low kicks here, but he's leaving his head up there as well to get countered. And of course, Motta lands a nice left hook after the kick. Motta lands a right hand, and Nolan goes down, and it's all over. Looking at the strike numbers here, 21-12. Not a lot to break down here. Motta hits hard. Tom Nolan's got some bad head movement and defense. So, not a recipe for success in his favor. All right. And the very first fight of 2024 for the UFC, Joshua Van versus Felipe Bunes. Yeah. Bunes landing the low kicks early. Bunes fighting off the back foot, countering and landing a hard right hand over the guard. Van pushing forward and turns up the offense at 320, landing a nice right hand. But Bunes lands a nasty right straight, and Van just eats it, no wobble. So there's this thing that happens if a guy lands a hard shot and you react to it, even if it's not that hard, right? So if a guy lands a decent shot and you react to it in an extreme way, and you move or you stagger in any way, even if you're off balance, it counts more than if you got hit with a harder shot and you just stood there and took it. If your head doesn't move, right, you just keep moving forward. So it's not even a poker face. It's the certain style of reaction to getting hit that can drastically change the way judges see the fight. So when Van was getting tagged with these, yeah, you could give it to Bunes, but if all other things were being equal, and Van landed some decent shots and Bunes moved, you could easily give it to Van. That's not what happened here. I just thought that was interesting to watch, and then immediately I'm thinking, oh, that wasn't that bad, even though you could hear how hard that shot was. Bunes looks for a takedown and then takes a knee to the nuts. So, very first fight in the UFC of 2024, a guy kicks a dude in the nuts, and he ends up winning. First fight of the year, first foul of the year. Van is a step behind, just not throwing enough out there. Bunes gets the takedown and rides out the end of the round. Easy 10-9 for him. Outstruck him 29-14. Second round, Van's more aggressive. Same amount of forward pressure, but landing more shots. Bunes ducks under for the takedown. Bunes really wants a takedown, taking some of the shots along the fence. Van turns it up even more. Bunes is covering up. Van gets a takedown, does some damage, and lets him up to punish him more. Bunes landing some in return, but just cannot get off the fence, and then Van landing a barrage with multiple knees to the face mid-combo. Bunes drops, and Van gets the finish. 69 strikes landed for Van in this last round to 21 for Bunes. So excellent fight for Van. He's really got to learn how to manage that first round. I think if he can keep this up and manage to get to a 5-round environment, I think his fighting style translates very well. I think that not getting punched in the face. What I mean is the not blowing your wad in the first round, kind of measuring, getting a feel for your opponent, and then pushing forward in the second round. I think that works really well in 5 rounds. I do not think his style is ideal for 3-round fights because you will lose that first. If you give away that first round, that means the next 2 rounds, there is no leeway. So even if, let's say you decide to turn it up in that second round and your opponent does just enough to make it close, well, now you could be down 2 rounds. You'd be looking at a split decision, but my point is, like, you could be down 2 rounds, and now you're fighting for, like, you have to get a finish in the 3rd round. It's just not an excellent strategy in 3-round fights. I think in a 5-round fight, that strategy is can be beneficial for certain fighters, right? If that's just who you are, I think that's fine. But I don't think that it's a good idea in 3-round fights to keep this strategy, especially as you start to move up the ranks or you start finding some veterans and some guys a little craftier who can, like, outthink you, right? That is it. If you are not subscribed to the channel and you do like this stuff, hit the subscribe button. Then subscribe. That way you know the next video is coming out and helps me out, and I appreciate it. I am trying to kick up my subscriptions this year. I'm trying to pick it up, get a little bit more community engagement. So I'm interested in what you guys thought about the fights. Let me know in the comments down below, and we will talk about it. So appreciate y'all guys. Have an amazing year. If this is the only video you watch all year from me, I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Amazing start to your year. Love y'all.